Do you have any more paps?
Full case, among other assorted fun items.
All right. Fire away.
Here we go. Watch out.
We are talking about We Summon the Darkness. This one is directed by Mark Myers and stars Alexandra Daddario and Johnny Knoxville, albeit in a small role for him. Now, this is a kind of throwback retro style movie set in the 80s, and it's set around the kind of the time of the Satanic Panic. Now, if you're unsure or too young to know what that's actually about, when kind of heavy metal and also kind of Dungeons and Dragons were first started kicking off in the 80s, there was a lot of pressure from religious groups saying this was obviously you know, demonic and devil worship and stuff like that. And as someone who used to be into heavy metal back in that sort of time frame, I know all too well. In the UK it wasn't quite as bad, but in the States I always think that generally things are a little bit more exaggerated there. But this movie is set in the backdrop of this. So we initially focus on these three girls. They are heading towards this heavy metal concert, and we hear on the radio there's been all these kind of like ritualistic killings in the kind of the area as such. We get to the concert and they meet these three heavy metal guys, and then the six of them decide to go back to one of the parents of this girl, these girls, this holiday home or something, to continue the party after the gig is finished. However, the killings start and the bodies start to mount up. What will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. Now, what do we like about this movie? This, to me, really captured what it was like to be a heavy metal fan in that time frame, or at least how I remember it. Because it's, you know, even take our female characters. One of the characters really reminded me of what my ex-girlfriend was like back then. And just the kind of like there's some kind of ambient conversation that you'll hear going on about kind of like heavy metal bands and stuff like that, and it's actually quite deep cuts that I think, like, if you are a kind of a heavy metal fan, you'd appreciate the kind of like the talk of Dave Mustaine when he used to be in Metallica and things like this, and obviously Cliff Burton when he got killed, and then the new guy Jason Newsted, things like this. So little deep cuts that if you are a heavy metal fan, you know, oh, kind of like they've actually got the kind of some of the facts kind of quite spot on here. That was quite good. I also really like the look of our kind of six characters, representing, you know, various kind of different sort of styles of kind of the metal look, so to speak. I actually thought some of our guys looked very German, obviously, even though this was a you know, an American movie. I thought that was all quite fun. There's actually quite a fun twist within this movie. In regards to the killings and stuff like that, which I thought was quite well done. It's relatively obvious, I think, to be fair, but nonetheless, I think it was still handled pretty well. There is kind of a little bit. It ends up not being really a supernatural movie or any such. It's more of a kind of almost a crime movie with a kind of veneer of heavy metal and Satanism, really, but not anything supernatural as such. So don't go in expecting this to see demons and things like that, because it's more or less the kind of the sins of man, so to speak, is the best way I've described this. I thought the acting was all pretty good here. You know, and it ended up being quite kind of some kind of fun, snappy dialogue here and there. What doesn't work, to be honest with you, I think Johnny Knoxville's a little miscast here, to be honest. He just stands out too much as just Johnny Knoxville, when the kind of the rest of the cast, I think, blend in pretty well as their kind of the characters. So he kind of seems a little bit, it just stands out a little bit too much for me. I got to say, the end of the movie, I didn't feel like it completely tied things up. Now that may be just by design, but I feel that there was a few threads left hanging that you're thinking, well, what happened about this? And kind of, you know, I don't quite understand how this has happened, or people haven't realised this, and things like that. I got a feeling that was a choice rather than kind of an oversight, but it ends up being just a little bit unsatisfying, to be honest. The twist when it comes, like I've mentioned, I think it's reasonably obvious, and I have to say, the motivations of one particular character are a little murky, and I'm not quite buying the motivations of one particular character and how they kind of change, really. I think a little bit more work needs to be done on that, to be honest with you. It's not a particularly gory film. I think there are some things that just seem a little bit OTT as well. Overall, though, I've got to say, it's a relatively fun movie. It's a nice kind of throwback movie. There seems to be a lot of these kind of like 80s style movies that you'll kind of like remind you back of the day. I think in that respect, it's actually done pretty well. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty enjoyable movie. I think it's, you know, if you're a fan of rock music and just kind of like more crime horror, check it out. I think you'll probably get a kick out of it. But don't be expecting anything too grandiose, because it really isn't. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I thought it was an above average production, shall we say. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.